welcome to Women Doing Business Differently. I am Lori Kirstein with the Goodbye Good Girl Project, and today I have an amazing woman with me. Her name is Lynn Schussler-Williams. Yes, she's been a sales coach for me. She's been a support for me. She has amazing work that she does in the world that I've been so blessed to be a part of, and am blessed to be a part of every single week. So I'm thrilled to introduce you to her, and let me just tell you a little bit about her before we get to the conversation. So Lynn is a speaker, she's a sales coach, she's an author, she's a women's empowerment advocate, and she works with individuals, groups, entrepreneurs, and women to help them build their belief and confidence. Oh, so important. Accelerate results, thank you, and create richer, more fulfilling lives. Known as the founder of Uprising, Unstoppable, Powerful Women, Lynn loves to play the role of connector. Oh yeah, boy, howdy, doesn't she? She's the author of the well-known personal development title, 9 Little Words to Change Your Results. And today we are going to have a really amazing conversation because Lynn and I come from the same time in history where we were brought up to be good little girls, and right now we are fierce, bad women. I should say badass. Hi, Lynn. Welcome.
Hi. I'm right there with you, babe. Let's claim it and own it and do it. Yes.
Seriously, just break through the walls of shoulds and say, bye now. I'm going to do it my way. I know, and I still find myself stumbling over certain rules. You know, I don't know if you do, but where did you start with that? Where did you start?
Well, I've spent my whole life not doing what the rules said. I grew up in the deep South. I'll just tell you, I was born in 1960. So, you know, a girl child in the deep South in the 60s, there were certain things you didn't do. There was lots of things you didn't do, lots of things you didn't do, lots of expectations that were just, you're going to grow up and do this.
Right.
And I was really lucky. I had parents who were older. I was the youngest child by a lot, and they were really forward thinking people. So even though I was a girl child, their only girl child in the 60s, I was told I could grow up and be anything I wanted to be. So it was such a gift.
How lucky
I don't
were
know
you?
if they remember telling me that, but I remembered it and took it to heart. And I think probably sometimes they regretted telling me that, you know, like, Lynn, we didn't quite mean it that, you know, but I spent my entire teenage years and young adult life undoing all the shoulds and doing the opposite of whatever anybody had told me society expected me to do. So it's been a part of my life from the get-go, right?
Did you ever struggle with any of it? Did you ever find you had, what were some of the parts that you had to struggle with?
Well, I'll tell you, in my late teens and early 20s, I was pretty sure everyone else knew something I didn't.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So I didn't have a lot of confidence in my own intuition. I didn't have a lot of confidence in my own judgment. And so I followed what other people said was cool or the right thing or whatever. And that led to, you know, my first marriage. and that didn't last very long because I was starting to wake up to, what the heck, you know, I think differently than that. And so yeah, it's definitely, it was not always a piece of cake doing that. And of course, then I had my parents who were fabulous people and who I love very much, but they had certain ideas about what was proper and what was right and all of that. And I didn't always go along with that. Rarely, as a matter of fact. So there was that whole, you know, the relationships and family to deal with and stuff too.
I'm interested to know about business, because I know when I've walked into corporations to work for them from the beginning, I have felt out of place. I have upset apple carts without ever intending to, because people don't like that I see very 360. So thank God I'm now a consultant, but still,
yes,
for many years I wasn't. And did you experience the same thing?
You know what I experienced when I was 26 years old, I stepped into a job that was definitely prior to that a man's role. I was a building manager for 12 years, and I had an assistant who was a man, same age as me, 6'5", and people would walk in our office. The contractors would walk in our office and start talking to him. And
Of
he would
course.
just let them talk for a minute, and they'd take a breath and he'd say, yeah, she's the boss. Talk to her.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
So, you know, from a very young age, I was in a role that had been traditionally male, and, you know, running projects that were tradition, you know, all the contractors were men. Not only were all the contractors men, most of them were old enough to be my father, you know, like, so there was
Right.
age, there was gender, there was all of that. So there were all kinds of stories early on in my career. And then I went into sales, and, you know, I also had this when I worked in corporate settings or job settings. I am pretty direct.
Yeah.
I see clearly, I know what I know, and I would have especially men, not always, but especially say to me, you're just so like, I don't know how to take you, you know, and
Interesting.
it was because I would just like name it. Like,
Hmm.
here's what's going on. And they didn't like it. They wanted me to be, you know, soft and whatever. And I'm like, well, you wouldn't be. Oh,
Right.
you know,
Right.
so there was a lot of that in my career as well.
That so speaks to our social expectations.
Yeah,
You know, like, oh, you're supposed to behave a certain way.
that's right.
No, no,
That's
not so
right.
much. So
Yeah.
when did you start to walk into your own business?
About 9 years ago, I was in technology sales. I had had a really good month. I was at 152% of quota. So anybody who's ever been in sales and knows, you know, you have a quota, you want to hit 100%. 152% is really good. Nobody in our office had ever done it. And I walked into my boss's office the first day of the next month, and he said, so what do you got for me this month? And this was a not a very happy office either. Like, we were
Oh,
in the middle of a merger, and, you know, the
yeah.
company I had been working for was the one that got bought, and we weren't getting support. It was really a nightmare. And with no forethought, none. I had not said this to my husband. I hadn't said it to myself. I just looked at him and said, not a damn thing.
Well, let me ask you this.
So,
What did you hear when he said that? When he said, "What do you have for me this month?"
well, you know, what I didn't hear was, way to go. Nobody's ever done 152% before. Wow, you're amazing. Like, it was
Right.
really what I didn't hear. That was kind of the last straw. It was like, I just made you look good. You didn't
Right.
do anything, and this is all you've got for me. Like, and honestly, it was long before that. It wasn't, that was just the trigger, right? But
Okay.
it was a company that wasn't operating in integrity. I was putting my good name on the line for them, and they were screwing it up.
That's
So
not
there was
good.
there was a lot way before that. Don't get me wrong, but that was kind of like, I am not, and I was at the point I'd pull in the parking lot, my stomach would start to hurt, you know.
Okay, that's a sign. Yep.
So, and that wasn't the first job either. That was the second job in that industry that had been that way for me. So I just knew I was done. I just had utter clarity. I'm done. Now, understand, I don't tell my coaching clients to do that. Like, most people are not in a position to just tell their boss, I got nothing for you, buddy, and leave.
Right.
But, but it was a powerful choice nonetheless. And it was the beginning of my entrepreneurial career.
Wow. Did
Yeah.
you have that afterburn that we get sometimes after we do something and we're like, I just took a huge risk?
I mostly had that when I went home and had to tell my husband, guess what, honey?
Oh
So
my
yeah.
God. So what did you start with and what do you have now? Like, can you take us on a journey?
Sure. So Um, it just turned out, as it does, that the week after I walked away from my job, I was already scheduled to go. I had had a side gig the whole time I was in technology sales. I was a certified conflict resolution trainer and facilitator for a particular group of churches. And I had been doing that work on the side, and I was scheduled already to go to a conference for that side gig. So I go to this conference and I run into this person who I haven't seen in 10 or 12 years. And she looks at me and says, "So what are you doing now?" And I said, "Well, that's kind of the question of the week, because I walked away from my job last week." And we got to talking, and she was part of what she did was representing a coaching program. And the long story short of it is that I signed up for this coaching program and I got certified as a transformational life coach. And that's the business I thought I would start. And in part I did, but what happened quickly was I was in a mastermind group with other new coaches, and they were ex-ministers, ex-teachers, ex-social workers, ex-HR people, none of whom had ever sold anything in their lives, and all of whom had been trained that you have to give transformation away for free or you're a bad person, right? Ministers can't charge to help people, right?
Oh,
So they weren't selling anything in their coaching businesses. And so I started helping them because I was just signing up new clients, and they were like, "How do you do that?" And I said, "Well, how do you not do it? Aren't we starting a business?" And so I started helping them. And very quickly, one of them said to me, "I can't let you stop helping me because you've changed my business, but you must let me pay you." And I was like, right. And so
yes.
that's where the sales coaching started for me, was helping other coaches. And I quickly realized that that was actually more fun for me. Like, they were my great multiplier, right? I could help more people through them that I could help by myself doing that coaching. And I took the transformational work and I married it with the sales coaching. And so, it just incorporates both, but it's all about helping solopreneurs, coaches, consultants, independent insurance agents, financial advisors, network marketers learn how to sell and get more clients in their business. So that's where I am today.
You certainly are.
Thank you.
You certainly are. So do you find that it is men as well as women who don't know how to sell?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
that's what I've seen, but you're on the front line with that one.
Yeah. So, I attract more women because I run a community of women, a free community of women. So I attract more women. But I just finished recently with a consultant who was a man, and he'd been in business a long time and just kind of needed a fresh way in this new economy, right? He also just needed to kind of rethink his sales funnel since the pandemic had come along, and things were operating differently, and so that was a lot of fun. And yeah, I work with men and women. I tend to attract more women just because I'm around more women, but
Right.
the other way that people come to me often is word of mouth, and he was an example of that. So a woman that I had worked with before sent him to me. So
Perfect.
yeah.
So how do I put this? I'd love for you to tell us about the offerings that you have, and especially about what you're doing differently and why you're doing those things differently. Yeah.
Right. Well, one of the things I do differently is, especially in the last year, I mean, I've always been what I think of as an affordable coach. I've never been somebody who, just charges the world for coaching, but especially in the last year, I have had this kind of important belief. It was important to me more than ever for people to not feel like they have to go get a mortgage to hire a coach. Like, I just
Ain't that
think,
the truth?
right. And
Yeah.
it's about, the ability to help people at a time when they really need help. So one of the things I do differently, if we could plot me on some kind of data chart for how I charge for coaching, it would be super affordable on the national scale, right? The other things I do differently, I do, like, for instance, the Uprising Unstoppable Powerful Women. That is a community in a Facebook group, and then it's a community at 9 events every month. They're all free. There is not an income stream that comes from it. And obviously it takes a good portion of my effort to run 9 events every month. Now I have a core group of women who support it as with me, but I'm still the only one who shows up all 9 events, right? And so one of the things I do differently is really invest myself in bringing value to a community that is who I resonate with, a community that's my people, right? And I really invest myself, and it's not some kind of trick, right? It's not come to this free stuff and it turns into it's a half an hour commercial or anything like that. Right? As the sponsor, we do a sponsor moment, but you would do that if you went to a Chamber of Commerce event, right? They would have a sponsor moment. So it's just really, it's about investing in the community that is yours. It's about bringing value to a community that is yours. And so that's another thing that I think is different about my business model and about what I do. And then, and how I do it differently, right? How it operates differently. There are lots of other things I do differently. Like, I'm really a sales coach. If somebody walks up to me and says, "Hey, what do you do in 2 words?" I'm like, sales coach. But at the same time, things like Unleash Your Unstoppable, it's a group coaching mastermind for women that's all about getting out of our own way, stepping into our greatness and power, manifesting the lives we desire and deserve. That's what that's about. It's not about sales. And I mostly do that because I want to be in it. Right? I do that as a gift to myself. And it is such a gift to be weekly with this amazing group of women. And so, you know, how can I just ask myself, I get curious about what makes sense for me to do to bring value, and what can I do that brings the most value to the people I serve. And so that's another, I think, too often people ask a question, how can I make money first? It's more like, how can I bring value, and is there or is there not a way to monetize that, right? And there are, or is it the right thing to monetize that, right?
I think that's the toughest thing. That's been the toughest thing for me personally. And I think that for women and women who want to bring something really of service, that putting that together with money is sort of, we have to have a major mindset shift.
Well, we do. And we have to have clarity about, you know, those coaches that I first did masterminding with, who all had blocks about charging money, right? They, social workers are trained. They can't take money for helping people, ministers, HR executives, right? Like on and on and on. There are all these helping people, but they had mental blocks about asking people to pay them for their work. And so a lot of sales coaching happens in here, right? It's why my transformational coaching and my sales came together so beautifully, because a lot of it is about our mental constructs, right? And money is one of the biggest ones, right? Most people don't want to talk about money, and they don't want to ask for money. But in business, you have to be able to, or you won't have a business very long, right?
Right. And I do think that for women, this is generally a bigger emotional issue than for men. And I mean, it's amazing that this new term that's really sort of risen into insane prominence so quickly, imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm kind of struck by that, because as with anything that we label, then we get a little bit attached to it.
Yeah, that's right. I really don't, I haven't experienced that a lot. like when I was really young a little bit, but the truth is, for the most part, I
Mhm.
feel like it's our job, it's our role. We are called as strong, powerful, intelligent, smart women to step into our greatness and power, to claim it and own it and be who we've come here to be at our best, and I just
Absolutely.
really like that's big for me. And it's part of what I teach people is, just claim it, just own it, just really see yourself. And often it takes, with a client, sometimes it takes me seeing them and saying, here's what I see, in order for them to even entertain the idea of how incredible they are, how what they're
Oh,
bringing to the world is so powerful.
oh yeah. I have a program called the Powerful Women's Leadership Program, and it is so based on the process because a lot of the coaches are like, well, here, just do this, and you're going to be fine. You'll be financially
Yes.
fine or whatever.
Right.
And life is not like that.
Right.
It's actually, that's a very masculine way to look at doing business. And
It
while
is.
while having goals is fabulous, it's a great idea. We have to let ourselves unfold as humans into it. And that is so, again, I mean, that's something I've struggled with because I feel like, oh, I'm supposed to be further, I'm supposed to be more, I'm supposed to be whatever, measuring myself against a system that's not even mine. So I have to remind myself over and over again, this is a process. And that's what I do for the people that I work with, because otherwise they're not going to get there.
Right.
It's just like what you're doing with all your 9 events. You're giving people that opportunity. And I know
Yeah.
because I'm in most of them every week.
So, the feminine leadership model is more about, um, as you said, just unfolding, right? It's gentler. It's not about pushing. It's not
That's
about,
right.
oh, I have this hard goal, this number, and I have to meet this number. And okay, so
Right.
now let me back up from that number and say, well, if this is my number, then I have to sell this many coaching clients or consulting clients. And you might want to do that exercise just so you know. But if
Yeah.
that's your business plan, then and you're a woman who's not feeling really great and comfortable in that, then it's time to look at what is it in what is called the feminine leadership model. What is it
That's
in
right.
that would serve me, right?
Well, that's why I'm having this channel, if you will, these interviews, is to say, what is the feminine model? Because we have not ever had the opportunity like we have now, um, just situationally. We I don't know what it is. We are moving into a new place evolutionarily, and so we women are stepping forward, and that means we're getting to synthesize. And
Yeah.
I think we are trying to come out of that idea that we have that we're supposed to be masculine like.
Right. Right. And for, I think about, and you're in my lifetime, like I was a teenager, a mid teenager in the mid 70s. I
Yep.
remember dinner table conversations about whether it was okay for women to go to work. I remember dinner table conversations about the Equal Rights Amendment. I remember dinner table conversations about Gloria Steinem and
Hmm.
bra burning and all of that, right?
Yep. Yep.
And now my daughters, who are young adults in their early 20s, find all of those topics just kind of ridiculous, right? So that's how far we've come in just a few decades, right? But at the same time,
Yeah.
women went into the workforce thinking that the only way to succeed was to duplicate what the
Right.
men did
That's
and
right.
to only look at it the way the successful men did. And so
That's
we
right.
spent a couple of those decades or
Hmm.
3 or 4 um
Hmm.
you know thinking that the model of success for us always looked the same as it did for the men who came before us. And that's just
Right.
absolutely, well, it's one way to look at it. And there were women who were successful at it, but there were a lot of women who were frustrated in that, model as well. And so the way I always remember how to think about a feminine model is, you're open to receive, right? You're open to
Yes.
receive feedback. You're open to receive collaboration. You're
Yes.
open to receive great connections and introductions, and that's how it flows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a more masculine model is always hard driving, pushing,
Right.
going
What's it?
for hard goals, all that sort of thing. And so,
Right.
it's just a matter of awareness. We were talking about this week about awareness is always the first step to transformation. So if we want to
Right.
transform how we're looking at business and how we're operating in business, then getting aware of where am I not comfortable with the model I'm working in and how can I work in it differently? That's, just kind of that first aha moment, right? So powerful.
It's very powerful. It's really profound how much we've all, women and men, been sort of hijacked emotionally, and to a degree that I believe we don't really see.
Yeah.
With that, we really don't. And I spoke to a lovely man yesterday who's got 4 daughters, and so he's, and I mean, he has gone into churches and helped them humanize, which is exactly what I'm doing in my business, to humanize the approach.
Yeah.
So that it's not just do this, do that, and and bad. And it was fascinated to learn about all of the different aspects of the feminine sort of mindset, and he's not clueless at all to it.
Right. He has 4 daughters. Bet you they've educated him a little bit, right?
Yes, they've educated him. Excuse me, I'm so sorry for jostling the camera. I just had to untie my legs. Yeah, so he's he's hip to it, and he's wanting to help, and yet there are bound to be blind spots for all of us.
Sure.
So I think it's
Men and women.
gorgeous that we're all that there are these pockets of discussing to come out of.
Absolutely. And another thing that's really important, I think, to mention, and this has been a shift in language, a shift in approach in our lifetimes hugely, is that we don't just talk about men and women, right? We've come to this new understanding that gender is a spectrum, and that, and so when we say at Uprising Unstoppable Powerful Women, when we say that we, one of our core values is to, and part of our mission statement is to create an inclusive and diverse community, right? Yeah. We're really embracing not just this either or, right? But people showing up as women and being made to feel like they're included. My daughter, who's 25, pointed out to me this week, because it was International Women's Day, that there are people who identify as women who feel excluded from that. And I thought that was so profound to understand that and to really think about it and to be aware of it. And so I wanted to say it publicly that, like, we're not going to exclude.
Thank you.
Based on some two-thing view of gender. So yeah.
Thank you, Lynn. That's gorgeous.
Well, it's important. It's a big deal in work environments too, right? Diversity and inclusion has become this really hot topic for companies and corporations, and everybody's figuring out how to deal with it. And it's just important to be real transparent about that, I think.
Very much so. I love that. I love that you're saying that publicly, that anybody can come to your group who identifies as female. I'm going to sneeze.
Oh, bless you.
Sorry.
That's okay. Bless you.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, it's that time of year in the Ohio River Valley.
Oh my goodness, look, I turned all red. Um, so I want to thank you for doing your work differently,
Thank you.
because it makes a difference.
Thank you.
I think the thing that you do that first got me coming to your weekly Celebration Friday meetings in the mornings, it's a sense of honoring kindness.
Mm. Oh,
And I mean, this is a big deal. It's so important that we learn just how much is held back if we're not kind to ourselves.
yeah,
You know, I mean, starting there, if you're kinder with yourself, it's going to get better externally.
right.
Let ourselves off those hooks. So
Yeah.
it's more profound than I think we're even supposed to put words to, and you're really bringing that forward.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
for
thank
seeing
you
that
too.
and saying it.
Yes, yes. Oh my God, and I'm soon going to be a part of your core member
Yeah.
team. So I'm like, woo, excited. Is there anything that any wisdom you'd like to lay on our younger counterparts?
Wow, trust yourself. Trust what you know. When you have that feeling of just knowing in your core, that knowingness, that feeling of this is clarity, trust it and just act on it, because it's your higher self giving you a clue, right? It's your true self coming through. And so just really listen to your intuition. And if something feels toxic, it probably is. And don't sit in it. Don't sit in a toxic mess. Let it go, move on, create something wonderful and new. The most powerful question another woman ever taught me to ask myself was, what would you love? Not,
Ah,
not what would be okay, not what would you settle for, not what would, that's all right. What would you absolutely positively adore? What would light you up? What would just ignite you? And whatever it is, do that, right? That's a clue. So I wish someone had told me that a couple of decades earlier than someone did, but I really appreciate her. And there's a quote from a man, Howard Thurman, that says,
love him.
don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive, and do that, because what the world needs is more people who've come alive. So that's what I would tell the younger us, the younger people here. Yeah.
Makes me wish I was 25 right now.
Yeah, exactly. I totally relate.
Lynn, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you
to
for
this show.
having me, Lori.
It's my delight, absolutely my delight. And as you grow and change, we'll just have you on again.
Thank you so much. It'll happen.
I'm watching it every week.
It's happening. Yeah.
I know. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.